Coming up, week 2 power rankings for the number 5 spot in the D-backs rotation. MLB.com just dropped their top 30 prospects list for the D-backs. So which of the top 30 prospects can make their debut and an impact with the D-backs this season? Then part 3 with Ben Caspick, wrapping up our conversation from last week with a little discussion on our favorite thing, the pitch clock. All coming up on today's Locked On Diamondbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day listening to who? Always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, just follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or just look up Locked On Diamondbacks on both Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. Would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free and available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe on the Locked On Diamondbacks YouTube channel. We are trying to hit 400 subscribers, slowly creeping toward that number, so please hit subscribe on the Locked On Diamondbacks YouTube channel. But for today's podcast, I first want to start with a little conversation because this might be our new weekly Monday show, our first segment to start our Monday shows until regular season starts, where we just do a little update on the number 5 spot in the rotation, because we know that's been maybe the biggest battle in spring training so far for the D-backs, and we did a power ranking last week after everyone did one turn through the rotation for the power ranking. Now it's week 2, so we got to do another power ranking for the number 5 spot in the rotation. Who is in the lead right now? Because I think there's a pretty definitive answer with who's in the lead right now for the D-backs, but as always, let's work backwards with number 4. And honestly, the power ranking is going to look the same as last week, because at number 4, once again, I have Tommy Henry, who in his first start with the D-backs on February 26 went 1.1 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, gave up a home run, did not look great. In his second start against the Seattle Mariners, he looked a little bit better, only allowed 2 earned runs this time, still allowed a home run, but still not a great start by him. At least went out there and threw 3 innings, which is always nice, but he's just been getting hit hard. He's the low velocity guys we always talk about. I do like the 4 strikeouts. He's one of the league leaders in spring training for the D-backs, at least in terms of strikeouts. I think he's like second on the team in spring training for strikeouts. But Tommy Henry, I think, is someone that is going to get a couple of spot starts throughout the year. Might be a little bit of a long reliever, but I don't see him as like a long-term piece with the D-backs. I don't think he's going to be the number 5 starter with the team this season. I do think he will pitch with the team this season. I don't know if he'll be on opening day. I don't know if he'll be on the opening day roster, but he will have a little impact and little role with the D-backs this season. But will he be a long-term option for the D-backs in the rotation? I do not think so. This next guy, I think, could be a long-term piece in the rotation or just a long-term asset with the D-backs ball club. But with how he's looked in spring training, he is not making a great case for himself, because Ryan Nelson is someone that I liked a lot at the end of last season with how he was able to dominate some of those NL West division rivals like the Dodgers and the Padres, and I liked his mix of pitches. I didn't mind that he was a fastball-heavy guy because he was someone that had a very high velo and seemed to have pretty good command and control of that fastball. You just wanted him to work in some secondary pitches. That's what he's been working on this spring training, trying to work on those secondary off-speed pitches with Brent Strom, something that he's talked about a lot. But through 2 spring training starts, Ryan Nelson has not looked good. That first start, 1 inning, 4 earned runs. In his second start, 1.2 innings pitched, so it went a little bit deeper, but 4 hits, 3 earned runs allowed, a home run allowed, 2 walks, and only 1 strikeout. Just not good starts by Ryan Nelson this spring training. He did only throw 21 pitches through those 1.2 innings pitched, so he was able to go through, I guess, quickly, move through the game quickly. But Ryan Nelson just hasn't looked like himself. The hitters have been keying in on those off-speed pitches for him, and those fastball velocities in these spring training games have been maybe a little bit alarming for Ryan Nelson, who, if you actually track his fastball velos the last few years, you say, his fastball velo for a few years now maybe has been taking in the wrong direction after what, pre-pandemic or probably pre-pandemic, he was someone that was consistently throwing 97 to 100. Maybe the pandemic messed up his routine and his workout schedule a little bit, and he may be still building back up that arm strength. I'm not too sure why he's not able to consistently throw as hard as it used to be, but it is a little bit concerning for Ryan Nelson. But I do think if he was a guy that we made into a full-time reliever, I think we'll see that velocity come back. And ultimately, I think I like Ryan Nelson as a long-term piece for the bullpen. I still want him to get as many opportunities as a starter in the minor leagues. I wanted to see him get opportunities this season as a starter in the major leagues. But long-term, I think he's someone that you could put in the 7th inning, 8th inning, either be a setup man, high-leverage reliever, come in, bases loaded, maybe got 2 men on, and you need a big strikeout. I think Ryan Nelson could come in and close the door in a high leverage moment by just throwing straight gas. Number 2 in the power ranking. This one is also not a shock, but Brandon Pfaadt, who has been phenomenal so far this spring training, in his first start against the Cubs, 2 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 2 strikeouts. In his second start on Saturday, because I went to Brandon Pfaadt's start, got to go to the spring training game. Brandon Pfaadt looked freaking phenomenal out there. 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Brandon Pfaadt has been everything that we've expected. All the hype from him in his minor league season last year has completely been cemented so far this spring training. I think the hype is only going to continue to grow with each spring training start where he looks like this. I don't think he will make the opening day roster, but I don't think it'll be very long that he stays in the minor leagues, because if he continues to look like this in the minor leagues, maybe we don't have to wait till All-Star break to see a Brandon Pfaadt call up. Maybe he does get the Alec Thomas treatment, where the first month of the season, you see how Brandon Pfaadt looks in the minor leagues, the first month and a half, and after 3 or 4 starts of Brandon Pfaadt is just blowing away the minor league competition, guess what? He might just get called up and be like, all right, let's do a little 6-man rotation and see how he looks with the Davies and Mad Bums and the Dre Jamesons and the Gallons and the Merrill Kellys of the world. Maybe do a little 6-man rotation, or maybe give Mad Bum. You probably more likely to give Mad Bum a day off or Zach Davies a day off instead of going to a 6-man rotation. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have to wait until the All-Star break or later to see a Brandon Pfaadt, if he continues this performance throughout spring training and then continues it into the regular season for the Reno Aces. If he still looks phenomenal that first month in Reno, don't expect Brandon Pfaadt to be on the minor league level too long. And then the last guy, of course, number 1 in our power rankings for the number 5 spot in the rotation, kind of gave it away a couple minutes ago. Dre Jameson has been that dude this spring training. He's only allowed 1 hit so far in spring training. His most recent start against the Giants, 2 innings, no hits, no earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, and only needed 10 pitches to do it. Dre Jameson has been phenomenal so far this spring training, and he is someone that coming into spring training probably was 1A to the 1B of Ryan Nelson for the number 5 spot in the rotation. And so far, he has completely blown the doors off this competition. Brandon Pfaadt is still right there, nipping on his heels with how good he's looked, but because he didn't have any experience on the major league level last season, this is easily Dre Jameson's job to lose right now. And so far, the way he's looked in spring training, I don't see how it's not already locked up. Dre Jameson is the number 5 starter in the rotation. And look, no matter what, whoever wins it, even though we all think it's Dre Jameson, like the D-backs are going to be in a good spot with their rotation long-term and short-term, because we got so many highly ranked rookies coming up over the next season, really. I mean, Dre Jameson's going to be a number 5 starter this year. Brandon Pfaadt's going to have some kind of impact on the major league level this season. So will Ryan Nelson. So will the Tommy Henrys. Like, the D-backs are going to get a good look at so many young pitchers this season. I think it's just going to make for a really compelling storyline. All these young pitchers in the D-backs rotation, all these young pitchers in the D-backs bullpen. I think it's going to be a really fun time. And that's going to kind of lead us into segment number 2, where we look at the top 30 prospects just dropped by MLB.com. Which of those guys are going to make an impact for the D-backs this season? That's what we're going to discuss in segment number 2. But before we get there, I first want to tell you about how these rookies are going to be a boost to the rotation, like how Built Bar can be a boost to your day. Because if you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. Because look, I'm a person that's a health conscious guy. I'm trying to work out every day. I'm trying to eat clean, but my biggest issue is I have a sweet tooth. I love candy and I love junk food, but that's where Built Bar comes and tricks me and just helps me out, because I think that I'm eating a candy bar when in reality, I'm actually eating a protein bar that's low in calorie, low in sugar, high in protein, high in fiber, great for the keto diet. And the reason it fills my sweet tooth craving so much is because it's covered in 100% real chocolate. It's soft, it's easy to chew, and they have unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, cookies and cream, just absolutely delicious. And right now, you don't just have to go to built.com online to get your box. You can still do that, but they're also in stores now. If you go to your nearest Sam's Club, Walmart, you can pick up a box of Built Bars. So please run into your nearest Sam's Club, get a 13-bar box with brownie batter or a churro, and guess what? You can thank me later. All right. Let's get back into the podcast and let's look at those top 30 prospects dropped by MLB.com, because this is always a fun time of the season where us pundits and fans can just kind of do a little deep dive into these prospects and get a little glimpse of the future of what your organization might be. Baseball America, I think, just said the D-backs have the second best farm system in Major League Baseball, and now we see MLB.com dropping their top 30 prospects for the D-backs, and it's not a surprise to see why they think this D-backs farm system is so good, because they are absolutely loaded with talent. And looking at the top 30 prospects, a lot of this talent is going to make their debut or have some kind of impact this season if they didn't already make their debut. So let's kind of look at these top 30 guys and discuss which of these guys can make an impact this season, might potentially have a cup of coffee with the D-backs this season, because there's a lot of names on this list. And I actually want to start at the top and work our way down. And at the very top of this list, number 1 in the D-backs top 30 prospect rankings, of course, is Corbin Carroll, who is going to be in for a monster season, going to play a full season with the D-backs, going to be somewhere in the top 4 of the lineup, probably near the top of the lineup, might be the table setter, might be a Mookie Betts-esque type player for the D-backs, where he has speed, where he has power like a Mookie Betts, but because of the speed, just because of the overall contact ability of the on-base ability, let's just get him on base and make him a table setter with that home run potential to start off a game 1-0 like a Jose Altuve. Corbin Carroll, the number 1 ranked prospect for the D-backs. I think the number 2 ranked prospect in all of baseball. Corbin Carroll is in for a monster season, and don't be surprised if at the age of 22 he's an all-star. And the real conversation is, should the D-backs extend him before the season starts? Should they do it mid-season? Should they wait till after the season? But no matter what, I don't think we enter 2024 with Corbin Carroll not on a new contract. I think Corbin Carroll will be extended within the next 365 days. That is my prediction for Corbin Carroll. Another dude on this list, as you make your way down, Jordan Lawler. I don't expect him with the D-backs this season. Drew Jones either, who hasn't even made his debut yet in the minor leagues. But number 4 on this list, Brandon Pfaadt. Expect him to probably start the season in AAA, but like I was saying earlier, I don't think he'll be in AAA very long, maybe a month and a half. The longest I expect him to be there is up until All-Star break, because I think he'll be a pretty early post-All-Star break call up if it takes that long, but I'm not even sure it's going to take that long with the way he's looking in spring training so far, with the way he's looked in the minor leagues last season. If this guy starts this minor league season hot, don't expect Brandon Pfaadt to be in Reno that long. Number 6 on this list, Ryan Nelson. We expect him to have an impact with the D-backs this season. He may not start the season on the opening day roster. He's probably not going to start the season in the rotation, but I don't think he'll be in the minor leagues very long. The D-backs want to give him as many opportunities as possible to be a starter, so that's why he might not cry. Why can't I say this? That's why he might not crack the opening day rotation, the opening day roster, because if Dre Jameson wins that number 5 starting job, they don't want to just put Ryan Nelson in the bullpen to start the season. They still want to give him opportunities as a starter to work on those off-speed secondary stuff. So they'll send him to AAA to work on that stuff for a little bit. And then if there's an injury or if they're just ready to call him back up, then that's what they'll do. But Ryan Nelson, expect him to have a pretty decent role with the D-backs this season. Number 7, Dre Jameson. Kind of surprising to see him ranked behind Ryan Nelson because we expect Dre Jameson to win the job over Ryan Nelson for that number 5 spot. But he's someone that could maybe be. Dre Jameson is someone that we all think Corbin Carroll is the unanimous rookie of the year, but don't sleep on Dre Jameson, because if he is going to be that number 5 starter for the D-backs this season and pitch potentially like a full season's workload, like if he gets 140, 150 innings pitched, like he's going to be in the mix for a rookie of the year conversation if he's pitching well, of course. 25 years old like a Ryan Nelson, but a little bit shorter, but a true athlete. 6 foot, probably around 170 pounds, could probably bulk up a little bit, but really wiry, a little twitchy, and a true athlete as a pitcher, which is why I think he performs so well. Big pitching arsenal. 4 to 5 pitches in his bag. He's got a deep pitching bag. So Dre Jameson, someone I like a lot, and someone that I think will have a major impact with the D-backs this season. And maybe you need to go check his FanDuel odds, because he might be a sneaky dark horse to win the NL Rookie of the Year. Number 8 on this list, Blake Walston, is maybe someone that can also come up with the D-backs this season. Expected to start the year in AA, 21 years old, maybe less likely than other guys, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Blake Walston made an impact, not an impact with the D-backs this season, but had a role like Ryan Nelson, Dre Jameson had last season, where maybe he comes in the last month of the season, has like 2 or 3 just random spot starts with the D-backs. I wouldn't be too surprised if that happened. At number 11, you got Blaze Alexander, who the D-backs have on the 40-man roster, with Geraldo Perdomo last season just not looking great at the plate, being a decent glove. Blaze Alexander, probably a higher upside offensive player with a probably higher offensive glove too, can play shortstop, second base, third base. Blaze Alexander, 23 years old. I wouldn't be surprised if Geraldo Perdomo, if he doesn't look that good with the D-backs this season, maybe they send him down, call Blaze Alexander up. Blaze Alexander seems to be ready to get some MLB action this season, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see Blaze Alexander maybe become the backup shortstop post All-Star break for the D-backs this season. Jorge Barosa, he is listed at number 15 on this D-backs prospect ranking. He is an outfielder, a little short, 5'9", 165, 22 years old. Considered MLB ready on MLB.com. Don't know too much about him, but with how deep the D-backs have been in the outfield with other guys already mentioned, like the Dominic Fletchers, the Dominic Canzones, I think they will get a first look over Jorge Barosa, but we'll see what happens there, because at number 17, you got Dominic Fletcher, who is also 25 years old, an outfielder, been getting some reps in spring training. So he could be someone, if someone goes down with injury, that gets a look at in the outfield. Same with Dominic Canzone, who's 25 as well in AAA. He could be someone that gets a look for the D-backs in the outfield if there's any injuries out there. At number 21, Justin Martinez, reliever, could be a potential guy as well. Just got reassigned to minor league camp, I believe, this week. He did have a cup of coffee in spring training this season. 21 years old, 6'3", 180. Wouldn't be shocked if the D-backs call him up, because this D-backs bullpen has been so much in flux the last few years. It's been pretty hit or miss. I think they're going to try to get as much young talent in the bullpen as possible. If someone is struggling in the bullpen, I don't think the D-backs will have any problem DFAing them, sending them down to the minor leagues if they're a young guy with still options. So don't be surprised if you see some names called up this season that you're not really expecting, that you didn't really know too much about before the season. Like, I didn't really know too much about Justin Martinez pre-spring training, but after seeing him for a little bit, after seeing that he's considered major league ready at 21 years old, don't be surprised if you see him with the D-backs this season. Then the last guy who I think could have an impact with the D-backs this season among the top 30 prospects is Carlos Vargas, who the D-backs acquired in a trade this offseason with the Cleveland Guardians, considered the 24th best prospect. high velocity reliever, does have some command and control issues, but if he's hitting the upper 90s as a righty, maybe he could be a high leverage reliever for the D-backs in the back end of the bullpen. But overall, I mean, how many guys I just named that could be potential impact players with the D-backs this season? I mean, you got Carroll, you got Brandon Fatt, you got Ryan Nelson, you got Dre Jameson, Blake Walston, I still think, Blaze Alexander, Jorge Barosa, Dominic Fletcher, Justin Martinez, Dominic Canzone, and Carlos Vargas. That's 11 of the top 30 prospects that we could see on the major league level this season. That's why this season is such a big transitional period for the D-backs, because they're going to have so much young talent be called up. And this is still a team that's trying to win games. This is a team that would like to make the playoffs, but this is not a team with championship or bust hopes. This is a team that's just trying to slowly marinate this product and get it to a place where we can start adding real pieces via free agency or trade. But first, we need to see the talent that we have within our own system, see how our own development is going, see how many of these 11, see if these 11 guys that could potentially make an impact this season, see what their true ceiling is. And then once you answer some of those questions, once you know, okay, Corbin Carroll is a true all-star outfielder, let's give him that extension. All right, he's a building block. Once you know Dre Jameson, definitely better than a number 5 starter in our rotation, that takes off our list of looking for another elite rotation guy behind Zach Allen. If some of these guys are as good as we think they are, they actually flash some of their potential, it makes it easier for the D-backs to go into free agency and trades and say, all right, maybe we don't have to go out there and spend a ton of money, or maybe we want to go out there and trade for a superstar player because we know we got these other prospects and these other assets and we have so much talent that we can actually move a piece or two and still be okay because we like the infrastructure of our team so much. We have so many assets that it's okay if we have to move one in a deal for a big time player. So I like where the D-backs sit right now. Still have a lot of questions with this young talent, but because they have so much young talent, so many darts at the dartboard, I think the D-backs are in a prime position to just see this team continue to get better every year, and you can do it with internal development, which is always a nice story because it's always fun to see when it's your team being homegrown, unlike the Dodgers and Padres who like to pay for players.